Today's project came from my experiences while I was test driving video blogging in the shop. I've since learned a lot and have decided to start video blogging, and this is video blog number 1. Well, this project came from the problem of setting up the camera. And in a small shop, space for a tripod is just kind of hard to come by. So I kept thinking about it and I came up with this concept. You've heard of the tripod. You've heard of the monopod. This is the bucket pod. So this is a woodworking project for real. It's got a little bit of wood in it and a base and some wheels and a monopod stuck in there. It's pretty tight, and a swivel head that I'll be able to put the camera on and be able to adjust it real easily. I'm really excited about this because in a lot of places I only have 13 inches to move around in my shop. So simply by just rolling this, I'll be able to quickly position and then position the camera very quickly and change the height if I need to very quickly. And you've got the bucket pod. So let's go ahead and look at how we built that. This was the original tripod setup that I was dealing with. You can see it's 4 feet wide, made it really hard to move around. I had a monitor strapped to the front of it so I could see what the camera was recording. And this is how I had to get around to the back of it to be able to set the adjustments and focus on the camera. So I'm ready to assemble the prototype measuring setup blocks that I had cut. First of all, we need to find out how big that hole is and measure the monopod here. Turns out it's a 64th inch less than 13/16. I needed to cut a block here on the rip on the table saw, and I've got the 2 setup blocks there for 13/16, and yep, it's 13/16 on both sides. So we're going to use this a lot to build this little prototype and then build the final model of it. Clamp these up and do some squeezing so we can get these all square. These little clamps come in really handy here. We're going to nail these with 18 gauge nails with my nail gun, my Ridgid nail gun, which has just been a really good tool for me. Kind of turn it upside down here on the other side and get those 2 nails in. Then I need to get the nails on the other side. Clamp a lot of stuff to my workbench using these kind of clamps, this kind of methodology for working. Couple of nails on either side of that, and we'll have it done. Kind of trying to find a way to get those nails in there. Unclamp everything and drop it in the floor. Check the fit with the monopod, and it checked out to be good. That's about perfect. Now we got to check it in the bottom of the bucket. It's tight about 1/8 of an inch. I can push it down in there, but I can see it's tight about 1/8 of an inch, so I need to cut these off. I took the prototype over to the chop saw and took about 1/8 of an inch off the end of each of these pieces. And then let's see how it fit into the box. Yep, that's perfect. And we'll check the monopod in there, and that's fitting okay. So now we need to check the angle of the side of the bucket with this woodpecker big bevel gauge, and then start transferring our marks over to our 6 by 12 inch blanks that we've cut. I need to find my favorite square that I want to use here. Another woodpecker tool. Mark that square on there. I'm not quite sure what I was doing here, but it was useless, whatever it was. No, that mark's useless. So then we're going to mark the line there, and then we'll take our bevel that we captured off the edge of the bucket and mark it onto our 6 by 12 inch blanks. And then I need another measuring marking tool, a straight edge over from the table saw to extend that line up. Then I got to try to figure out here what the notch is doing on where the notch goes and how to cut the notch. So I'm fooling around here, and this is just typical that we're going to use that doesn't work for measuring real well. There it tells me it's about a 1/2 inch offset there off the end, and then I wanted to find my Veritas markup square that I like so much for real markup, measured markup. There it is. It's over on the end. So yep, I'm verified that there are a 1/2 inch on each cut there, and transfer those over to this board and make me a cut line there that I can line up to. And then these are going to go over to the chop saw. Cut each of the corners off real quick here. I made a mark on the chop saw itself to how to keep these lined up, so that went real quick. Next, we're going to go over to the table saw and use a taper sled to cut the bucket bevel angles onto each of the blanks that we marked up. We marked up the first one, and so I can set the sled using the first one, and then it's a real easy job to go through and just cut them all using this sled. This is from Peachtree Woodworking. It's a $60 sled. It's great. So here we go. We're going to cut the first one. And if you notice real close, I just cut the notch off that I carefully cut on all these boards. So I'm going to go back and recut those. The saw had quit running. We're going to set up now. We're going to take the pieces we've got all with the bevels and everything cut. They're ready, so we're going to take our setup block again. And we're going to use our setup block to put these boards together. Bunch of clamps. And we use a nail gun actually to put these together. It just seems like the easiest thing to do. There's no stress on these joints or anything. It just needs to stay in place. So I'm getting them all lined up here and tested out, and then clamping that little block on the bottom. Then I need to find a way on the table to get it set so I can get a gun to it. Readjust the camera a little bit. So here we go. We're going to get the nail gun and put these in place. Those clamps can get you a little off sometimes. Put a couple of nails in these and get them started. It's always hardest to get the first two boards put together on any project, it seems like. Put one on each end. So with the first two boards put together, we're going to get the third one started here and using our setup block again, and have this clamped in the vise now. It's a little bit easier. Got something we can work with. Using that setup clamp and get this all squared up. Had to move it to the end where I could actually get it clamped and get to where I can get to it with a nail gun. And I seem to be bald. Didn't know that. Not really. So we've got the third board hooked up. Go move it back to the middle of the Horvarter Twin Vise. Putting 4 nails on each side. Go ahead and fill those in. Fill those in and go for the fourth board here. Again, I'm filling in the nails. I'm going to use that little setup block again. Make sure I'm not slipping there any when I push against that board. Check the other end. We're good. And get the nail gun and pop those in. So there you go. We're getting this finished. Make sure I got 4 nails on each side of it. Let's see how it fits. Big moment. Test fit. Worked pretty well. Got some wobble in it. Going to fix that later. Now I'm marking the lines in the bottom of the bucket so I can put some screws and get this fixed into the bucket using number 8 3/4 inch square drive Spax screws. And I've got a hex drill set in my Bosch driver there. Drilling the pilot holes. You can't see the lines through the bottom of the bucket, but I can. We almost see the lines. So now there are the lines, and we're going to set the insert back in there and line it up. And I put this big old block, it's a scrap from the workbench build, and hold it in there. Start putting these screws in there, and then we've got them all done. Needed some 1/4 inch by 1 inch lag bolts. I'm going to use 4 of those to attach the bucket to the base. Drilling those pilot holes. Be ready for that. So here we needed the base piece. So the base is going to be 13 inches by 13 inches. Set the rip fence to 13 inches. Rip a piece of plywood through there, and then set the saw back up. Change the saw over to with the rip fence on there, with the miter bar on there, on the Jessom slider. Trying to figure out which is the straight edge I want to use. I've got it set to 13 inches. The Jessom slider miter bar works just really great. Makes it really easy to cut these kind of pieces. Now I need wheels, and figure out what size the wheels are to make some mounting blocks for them. And the wheels are about 3 inches. And change back over to the rip fence here and set the 3-inch pieces up. I love these micro jig push blocks. I think it's one of the best safety features on a table saw. I've got 4 of them. You can see a couple of them sitting over on the left over there. So we're going to run this through. Always make sure your saw is not going to cut your push block. Then I'm going to run 3 more through real quick here. I thought I needed 4, but I only really needed 2. It'll get used for something. We're going to glue the mounting blocks onto the 13 by 13 inch base blocks here. A little glue, a couple clamps, nail gun. Pop some nails in there to hold them. And turn it around and pop the rest of the nails in there. So I got both sides all done. Now I'm using a Lee Valley hex extender for my driver there with a socket in it to drive the lag bolt through the bottom of the bucket into the base. These work really good. And put a total of 4 lag bolts in there. Total overkill, but seems like the thing to do. Now I need 16 lag bolts to bolt the wheels on with, and the yellow inventory buckets over on the wall seem to have everything in it. So I had 16. I've got a bunch of 1-inch lag bolts. Mark the holes and drill me some pilot holes in here, and then get a driver on there and run all these lag bolts in on these wheels, and presto, we're done. So we got the wheels mounted. Let's see how it looks. There you go. Now I got to put the monopod in it and deal with this wobble problem I've got. You can see the top of it's too big. I'm going to go over and get me a couple of setup blocks out of the woodpecker box there, that for the setup blocks. I got a 1/16 of an inch and a 3/32 inch to see how much of shims I need to put in there. And it turns out it's between a 1/16 and 3/32 after messing with it there. So I went over the bandsaw, and I'm going to cut a 3/32, and I use these setup blocks to set my bandsaw. This is a Drift Master on a Laguna, a Drift Master fence, so it's got a screw adjustment on it. I can fine tune that adjustment really, really easily. So I get it set to 3/32 of an inch, and cut me a sliver of that pine setup block, actually. Push block so I don't cut my fingers. Something's happening on my bandsaw, those dark marks. I don't know what that is. Cut me a couple little pieces of that shim off. And we're going to sand those because everything should be sanded, I guess. And glue these in, test them see if they're going to fit or not. They don't. They're too thick. I'm pushing it really hard. Put a little glue on here and really kind of get the glue to a minimum because I really want these to dry, and I'm going to use them immediately. You can see I'm really getting most of the glue off there. Set that in on one side, and I've got another one cut down a little bit for the other side with some glue on it. So I've got my two shims in the square hole. I'm going to use my carving chisels to size these exactly, marked them up. You can see that curve there that I need to match to, and one of the carving chisels is perfect. Just notch that out. Got me a nice little notch in there. These are the pieces that came out of it. And then the monopod fits in there nice and snug. Perfect. Couldn't be better. So there it is. That's working. Now to make the thing rock solid, I'm going to fill it up with rocks. Got a bag of rocks from the Home Depot. This is what they call marble chips. And dump them in there. And so there you go. We're done. Well, we finished the bucket prod project, and that was fun. My first video for the MySaw channel. Hope to have more coming. If you do have questions, just post them below. Also below you'll find links to various pieces and parts of this project. Also to my website and blog, the MySaw.com website. You'll find many projects that I've completed there over the past 10 years that might be of interest to you. And remember, get in the workshop. It's not the tools, it's craftsmen. Y'all have some fun down in that workshop. Thank you.